Welcome, everybody. I am so thrilled and excited for this kitchen table conversation. It's going to be a really very special one. I'm here with my very dear friend and one of the most dynamic and creative empowerment artists that our world knows today, BreciaKralovic-Logan. Welcome, Brecia.
Thank you, Sandy. Oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry.
It's so true. It's so true. I've known you for years and you never disappoint. I'm going to introduce you now. And I get to formally do that, which always thrills me. Brecia is a creativity cultivator, a champion for women's voices, and a nationally recognized fiber artist. She is the founder of the International Women's Festival Pacific Northwest and a regional ambassador for the Global Art Project for Peace. Brecia is the author of The Spiral of Creativity.
Oh, I like it.
I love this book, Mastering the Art of a Spirited Life. She teaches and speaks at international art conferences, and her work has been exhibited nationally and is in the collections of museums and private collectors. Currently, Brecia promotes creativity, community, and compassion through Women's Woven Voices Project, which we are going to be talking about. It is an international collaborative fiber art project that promotes women's empowerment through writing and weaving and sharing of stories. And Brecia, I'm one of those women that you've inspired and empowered. And so once again, I'm just tickled and delighted to finally get you at my proverbial kitchen table.
Happy to be here.
These calls are intended to really lift the voices of those who live and who demonstrate the very dynamics of the liminal odyssey, which really begins with recognizing our moments of choice, our moments where we choose a path of how we're going to live our life or a decision we're going to make or whatever that is. So I'd like to start with that question for you. Like, what did that moment look like when you realized that your artistic talents and gifts were or should be or could be expanded into empowering women?
Yeah. Oh, it was a very distinct moment too. You've probably heard this story before, but and as you know, every one of those ripe moments has a sort of a history. It's not like just singularly happening. It's building up, right? There's many different things that are converging and coming together, and then there's this golden moment where you're like crystal clear. This is the next thing that has to happen. And it may not be crystal clear about what it is to happen, but it's that moment of like, there's been this urge, there's been this nudge, there's been this experience. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, yes. And you say yes. And sometimes you might not even know what you're saying yes to. You know what I'm saying? But you know that at that moment you're saying yes to something that's bigger than yourself, maybe. So that moment happened for me in 2016. It was 2016 or 2017? Let me think. Oh, no, 2017. Sorry. I was on a team and we put together a women's festival or conference to celebrate International Women's Day on March 8th. And this was up in Vancouver, Washington. And we had invited six just I would say shiny women, 6 women who were doing something in the community that just was wonderful and delicious. And we were like, oh, you are, whatever you're doing, whether they wrote a book or whether they created a community program, or there was something about them that was really shiny and yummy, and we said, so come and we're gonna ask you to be a speaker at our conference, and we would really just love for you to tell us your story. So, don't teach us something, don't give us a PowerPoint, just get up there and share yourself with us. And I have to say that that's not an easy ask for a lot of people. And not everybody was comfortable with that. They would much rather do a PowerPoint presentation. But each one of these brave women really stepped into it. And at the end of the day, 5 out of the 6 women spoke about being sexually abused as children as a part of their journey. I mean, they, obviously they were overcame those challenges and just, were living life to its fullest, and they were thriving. But at the end of the day, there was just this theme, like, why is it that here are these amazing women who were all being inspired and motivated by, and yet this is a part of women's lives that's just so insidious, right? And the last speaker said, there's really been a theme that's developed through the day. And she asked the 300 people in the room, women in the room, if you've been affected in some way by abuse, whether it be sexual abuse or any kind of abuse. Well, 300 women stand up, and I just get the chills all over my body as I'm standing up. And at that moment, I realized, oh my gosh, I have been wanting to push my art talents into the area of much more meaningful, doing more meaningful things than I had been doing. And I really want to make a very big artistic statement that promotes what it is that I want to see in the world. I want to promote compassion, in the face of the experiences that women have all over the globe. And in that, creativity and community are kind of, compassion is sort of the overall umbrella, and creativity is our superpower, and community is how we work. So those 3 things just came to me, and I had an inkling of what I was going to do, but I wasn't absolutely positive. But as I said, at that moment, I said yes. And then shortly thereafter, the next month, I was off to Belfast for a peace conference with the Global Art Project. You mentioned that I'm involved with the Global Art Project for Peace. And at that conference, there were other artists who were doing really big projects to draw attention to a number of different causes globally. And I had my, who am I? I'm just a moment, I'm just a mom who makes art. I'm just an artist in Southern. I'm just a. But by the end of the conference, I just had to take myself by the face and say, "Stop it! stop it, you! All right, you put that aside." And there's just every reason in the world why you should be reaching higher and doing some kind of a project that really is big. And I thought 1,000 women from around the globe was big. And it turned out to just be a really, really great goal, because it really drew people in. About 10 people from 10 different countries participated. And so anyways, I'm saying the big goal, well, the big goal was Women's Woven Voices Project.
Yeah.
Came to me, and this is one thing I just want to say about it is that it's just right where you are, right? So I've been a fiber arts teacher for decades. I've worked with kids in the schools. We wove on little straws, we made little strips of cloth, and we used them for a variety of different things. And I just thought to myself, okay, here's this very simple thing that I did with kids, which I had then at one point done a retreat with a group of women in Oregon. And I said, weave your creative storyline. And so it just kind of came naturally. I was like, okay, the next, why don't I just ask women to weave their story? And in doing that, in looking at and reflecting on their strengths and their courage, and ask them questions about what makes them feel whole, ask them questions about what brings them joy, ask them what challenges that they've had, so that they can look to see what did they bring to those challenges, what were their strengths, even in those worst things that they experienced in their lives, so really focusing on their strengths, their courage, when were they brave, when were they whole, that kind of thing, and then weave it. And so that's really, like, in the panel that's behind me, that's really what's emanating out of that.
Yeah,
So
let me just say, each one of those strips, I'm sorry to interrupt, excuse me for interrupting. Each one of those strips is a story.
Yes,
Each
it
one of
is.
these strips, and I have done one of these strips. You
You
actually,
have, and I'm sorry I didn't go to I'm storing the tapestries, and they're sort of stacked on top of each other, and I would have loved to have found the one that I think is yours, but
oh, no, 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 that's okay.
I just pulled this one. I just pulled this one out, but uh,
Experiencing creating it was uh, such an incredible experience because while you're weaving, and it's literally a very personal experience, but we also did it in our Sarah Women's
yes, yeah,
Organization. We did it collectively, and you also gifted us the loom kits,
right, right,
200 of them
yeah,
for the alchemy event that I produced at the Parliament of the World's Religions. And we sat in little circles, and women had could pull out their loom kit and create.
yeah.
And so it's a collective project, but it's also very personal. And in the experience, it's just like journaling.
It
It's
is,
a
it is.
different dynamic of journaling, but it still brings out things like, because you have to take your time, even though it's really, like you said, a really easy process.
Yeah,
While
yeah.
and then when you've got your piece, and it's not more than about this big, right? When you're done with it, maybe,
Well,
well, those are
they're all
long.
different. I mean, people,
Yeah.
there's some short ones in here, but there's, yeah,
Yeah.
nice long
And
ones.
when you're done with it, then you can decorate it with different
Yeah,
little
yeah,
items that
yeah.
out your story and tell your story in a different way. So anyway, I had to just share the personal experience and
Of course.
full like endorsement on this
Of course.
project. And my
Well,
fingers cramp a little thinking about it. I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop.
in answering your question, I don't know that I actually explained what it, explained all about what it was, but I was telling a
Yeah,
little bit more about my moment.
you moment.
But yes, basically it's a project where you can go to the Women's Woven Voices website. You can download writing prompts that I was just talking about, and so I kind of like offering both sides of the brain, the language side and then the art side, so that you really come at it with a sense of wholeness. And people had a choice, if you wanted to write, you could. I really encouraged the self-reflection, and a lot of people just did their self-reflection while they were weaving. They didn't really write anything. Other people did write and found that to be, like you said, it's like journaling, but with the weaving. So both of those things were designed for the participant, to have an experience of a meditative activity, to help them just center in their own intuitive wisdom, and to draw on their strengths, and to reframe and to let intuitive things bubble up, perhaps. About, I had so much feedback about people saying I was weaving and then this kind of bubbled up, or
Yes.
and I got a new perspective on my life, or under certain circumstances or relationships. Also, just a reframing. One of my dear friends who's an artist wove sections of brown alternately with sections of bright pink and turquoise, and she had a lot of challenging experiences in her life. And so she was saying the brown was death of her mother, divorce, cancer. I mean, some very serious challenges to overcome. But each time there was this little section of creativity, just the pink and the turquoise, and when you're looking at it, you would have no idea. But she said, when I got to the end, I had this really great insight that all of those brown sections were really compost for the really rich and incredible times in my life. And I just thought, oh, isn't that wonderful that you had that moment of being able to look at it physically
Right.
and say, oh, that's a new insight. By doing the artwork, you have this new insight because you've actually put a color onto those challenges. And then you say, oh, yeah,
I
look
could
at
write a
what
book on
grew
that.
out of that fertile soil.
Well, we talk about the new moon being the dark time where you come within, or when you plant a seed in the ground, it has to
Right,
disintegrate before
right,
something new can break through. That
right.
concept is out there, but to see it demonstrated
Yeah,
and then
physically, yeah.
processed and
Yeah,
then expressed in a panel, and it was because of your panel that realization came. It
yeah,
wasn't darkness, it was compost. It was
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. There's something that you said, well, everything you said, but particularly the question of what did that moment look like?
Uh-huh.
And you said, and so just real briefly, I've had nothing but those kind of moments in my life that have
Right, right.
to some fantastic stories. But I just, it kills me to think that there are those who are kind of hit with the tsunami of inspiration and then just
Mm.
discount it because the just
Oh, yeah.
am, I don't have it.
Yeah.
And the morning of 9/11, I heard Gather Women. I didn't have any clue how I was going to do it. Hit the floor. I said yes. And here we are
Yes.
20 years later. Had
Yeah.
no idea how to get there. Another experience happened where I said yes. And it took 30 years to realize the power of it. So
Mhm. Mhm.
responding to that, for me, it's the acknowledgement
Mhm.
of that moment that you had the propensity and the capacity to recognize it and say yes in that direction.
Mhm.
And the value of us not discounting that.
Right. Right.
I didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice.
No, uh-uh. Well, and I think you just have to kind of remember the something bigger than us kind of thing, because, we all day, we'll just and who me all day long. I mean, I don't know if you wouldn't, but I would, I
Oh,
would say I would find ways to, I recently wrote about the still small voice. It's like the still small voice within, but if you take the comma out, then it's still small, right? The still small voice. You know what I'm saying? You
yeah.
have this deep inner wisdom, this intuitive self that's your still small voice. But you don't want to take that comma out and be like, oh, I'm still have a small voice. I'm not ready to be big yet in the world. So I think that's interesting.
Uh, Thank you for saying that. And I marked a couple of things. I'm like, aha, I knew why I marked this. I had a still small voice, no comma, that this spoke to me, and I trusted it would be appropriate to share from your book. I love this book is such a great everyone pick it up. And it's one of these books that I can just pick it up and
Oh
flip to
yeah,
the
yeah.
page, right? But it's a quote that you included by Eileen Caddy.
Hmm.
His name is very familiar. I'll have to look up why I know that name. Cease trying to work everything out with your mind. It will get you nowhere. Live by intuition and inspiration and let your whole life be a revelation. For me, I just got full body. Why that speaks to me and what we're talking about right now is it's trusting that
Hmm.
still small voice, even if you don't understand it.
Hmm.
Just, just be humble in that moment
Hmm.
and know that there's something else and be open for what appears. When you do that, you're opening the window of what's possible.
Of course, yeah.
I love that.
You just hit on something, Sandy. You were saying you were touting my creativity, but so you embody creativity in that you have that faith and that trust, because that's really the foundation of our superpower. I mean, creativity is essentially the ability to create something that never existed before. Was
Mhm.
that a superpower or what, right? And so, you go into the world and you're just going around creating things all over the place. But in order to open that door and walk through it, there's got to be some kind of faith and trust, right? So it builds your creativity builds your strength and helps you to recognize your courage, because you're constantly walking through those open doors without maybe knowing what's next. I call that your not natural authentic knowing, and you're not actually knowing.
Yeah.
So, so you have those two things. You have to trust your naturally authentic knowing, which is your intuition, without not actually knowing. Yeah.
I think we've been duped into not trusting ourselves,
Yeah.
probably for consumerism, but what Rianne Eisler refers to as the domination trance, it's based
Yeah.
on rooted in patriarchy. And we were having a conversation recently about patriarchy. And one of the things that happened during the early days of the rise of patriarchy and discounting women's power was really our free expression, as well as, honoring earth and the medicinal qualities of earth and all of that. But those things they just went underground. They didn't go away. And art was how they expressed themselves.
Mhm.
Art is how the divine feminine expresses herself, and in synchronicities and other ways as well. And yet art is how, when we tap into art, and you don't have to be a fine artist
Mm-mm.
or any kind of artist to create a swatch,
Yeah.
but you become an expert in your field when you're in the moment,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. You're
It's so
expressing
powerful.
yourself. Yeah.
When you express yourself, you're an expert in that field of
Yeah.
art. And
Definitely.
I know we're all well served when we can do that. Yeah. So what's going on with Women's Woven Voices? What projects do you
Yeah.
have
So,
looming?
so 5 years ago was when I was inspired to do the project. And over that time, I had workshops with so many, women's groups, women veterans, women refugees, teenagers, um, art groups, men veterans, all different kinds of groups. And so, people wove and I stitched. And so when the tapestry now includes over 1,000 woven story cloths from people from 10 different countries. And during that time, I was just collaborating. I mean, I collaborated with you to take kits up to the parliament and collaborated with the Charter for Compassion, just constantly finding ways to collaborate. And towards the end of 2020, I met a woman in Carlsbad at the Front Porch Gallery, Julie Weaverling, who is the director there. And that gallery is a part of the Front Porch Senior Community Living organization. So they have 10 senior communities. And so Julie just embraced this project. We collaborated. And over the course of 2021, 2021, we held Zoom meetings. We had she got the materials. I provided hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kits. We basically just worked together to have as many senior people participate as that wanted to in these 10 different places. And it was independent living, so just folks that are just in a community, assisted living, memory care facilities, or not facilities, but communities, and then caregivers and families, and everyone participated. So over 700 people participated from the Front Porch group. And so we brought it all together, had this big exhibit in Carlsbad at the Front Porch Gallery. And that was sort of like the culminating event. Yeah, I wanted, that's what I wanted to do was good. And we,
Yeah.
we had drawn in people from all of these different countries. So what was next? Well, the next was to just keep sharing the message of the project and then the tapestry. So earlier we talked about what the participants get out of the project. They get the time to weave their story, reflect, hopefully bring up, a sense of their empowered voice. That's what I was hoping for.
Wow.
But then once I stitch it all together, the people who come in to see the tapestry, then there's another impact, a point of impact, right? So they're just saying, wow, what is this? What is this all about? And they get to experience this other level of abstract, intuitive, like the beauty, the connectedness. And you say these are women's stories that are woven together, and especially when you see all 1,000 of them, it has like a vibrational energy.
Right.
And so people come in, and it's so interesting to see how they react. Like, it feels like love. This is incredible. And they go and they look at every embellishment, and they get caught up in it. And you don't know what the stories are, right? I mean, it's not like it's an abstract thing, but so people are reacting at a very gut level. And people have walked away just saying, I feel, uplifted. I feel the powerfulness of it. I feel the sense of wonder. I feel the sense of community here, so that's the second point of impact. So anyway, so this year I drove the whole thing to Tennessee and set it up at an art conference there, which was just incredible. And I just have to give credit to my incredible daughter, Natasha Logan, who, all those little videos on the website, and she's just been my support all through the years. And I decided that if I was going to drive for 5 days, that I wanted to make it into something that everyone could participate in. So we did a campaign on a wave of compassion. And so we created little posters that people could download, and I made got magnets for my car. I recorded everywhere I went and just sort of sent out saying, hey, we're just creating this wave of compassion from California to Tennessee, and you can participate by just sharing, your stories from your project, sharing, the I'm a strong woman poster. And I also posted affirmations. So do you just download those affirmations, and just if you want to just put them up on your wall and say an affirmation every day just for your own personal, that was fine. So that's what we did. And now we have on the website a space for a global tapestry gallery. So instead of sending your woven story cloth to me to stitch, I now have resources on the website so that groups can do it. Because after showing it in Tennessee, many groups have now contacted me and said, well, we want to do this. We want to do this. And I was like, this is such a beautiful thing for you to do in circle, gathering with your tribe, whether it's your church group or your art group or your family. Get the kits, weave your stories, share with each other. And then if you want to stitch them together, I have videos on the website that show you exactly how I did it. And then you can display it, at your church hall, or, just for your family. Or if you don't want to stitch them together, that's fine. Just take pictures of what you've done and send them in. And that way the tapestry can continue to go around the world. People anywhere can do this project and use this, because just because I did Women's Woven Voices in this, I mean, what your experience was. It was a lovely experience. I would just like to throw it out there for as many people to use in whatever way they can. So my next job is to just continue to put resources onto the website and make connections, and just birth it out into the world, and also to keep taking the tapestry around so it can have the impact for conversations about how we creatively come together in community to make a more compassionate world, so that we aren't having discussions about abuse of each other, of our planet, just promoting compassion.
Brecia, the first time I saw your website, the first thing that came to my mind was how thoughtful it was, thought-full, how, first of all, digestible it is for women to find resources, for me to find resources, right down to, dialogue, writing prompts, journaling prompts, and simple to follow video on, or steps on looming. And that just speaks to the caliber of woman that I believe you are. That really, I mean that with all my heart, that you are so careful for everything you put out and expand opportunities. You don't have to just drive around across the country. You can make this a wider, broader experience. How do we stretch those moments and those experiences? And living in that liminality, knowing there's a bigger gap between this idea and what's possible. Yeah.
Mhm.
And how can you just keep expanding it and making it better and better and better um, without any the ego that is, well, bring all that attention back to me.
Mhm.
I appreciate, and I think it's necessary for that exchange of energy, for those resources to come back to you, for people to come back and not even donate to your site, as well as participate in sharing the picture. So you definitely are encouraging what is feminine leadership, and you're living it and trusting it. And I just honor you so much for that. I tell you, I've been wanting to have you on this call for a very long time, and I'm so glad we finally could do that. Where can everyone find you?
Yes, well, womenswomenvoices.com, as you said, has got quite a bit going on there. I also have my own art website, which is BreciaKralovic-Logan.
Yeah.
And my book also has its own website, the spiralofcreativity.com.
Yeah, please go get this book. And I just love it. And I just honor you so much in what you're doing and elevating. There's nothing more important right now than to elevate the voices of all,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
just women,
yeah.
but it is in a divine feminine lens that you're empowering everybody here. But to elevate the voices of women is so important. And I thank you so much.
You are so welcome. You are just one of my idols, Sandy.
Ah, well, I'm rubber and you're glue.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
oh, thank you, Brecia. Thank you so
All
much for
right.
being here.
Wow. I'm so honored that we had a chance to sit down and have a chat. But more than that, I'm just so happy that we got to spend some time together. Yeah.
Virtual hugs all around. All right.
Yeah.
And
Thanks. All
that's
right.
that's a cut. So
Great.
thank you. Did we get
Thank
everything
you,
said
Sandy.
that you did we get everything said?
I'm sure we did. I mean, perfect.